literally the day before graduation, I was actually in a really bad car accident where the car flipped, rolled down the hill, all of that. And it was really crazy just because I remember when I opened my eyes as the car, was turning, finished turning. I just remember thinking like, dang, when I open my eyes, I hope I don't see something that I don't want to see, because I was with my roommates and things of that nature. And as soon as I opened my eyes, my phone was there right in front of my face, and notification came through. It was my mom, and she said, I just got here. And so in my mind, it was like, there's no way I'm not getting out of this car. Yeah. Like, she just got here. She's seeing me walk that stage. And so, like, I ended up kicking out the windows of that car, ended up, helping my roommates get out. Luckily, with the grace of God, and I mean, I got some angels watching over me. There was not a scratch or anything on me. A few other people that had, like, broken bones and things of that nature, but, like...
Let's go. We're live. Another episode of Adversity Kings. Special guest today. We've got Brylan.
Brylan, yeah, you pronounced it right.
Awesome. What's the last name?
Donaldson, man.
Brylan Donaldson. Awesome, brother.
Yeah,
so where are you from?
I'm originally from Wichita, Kansas, man, but currently right now I live out in Atlanta.
Okay. And then summers in Chicago.
Yeah. So I split summers in Chicago. I'm actually probably going to be moving to Chicago here within the next year, but my girl lives up here.
Okay. And then how old are you?
Yeah, I'm actually, I just turned 27.
Just turned 27? Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. And then, so where did you go to, like, school and everything?
Yeah, so like I said, I'm originally from Wichita, Kansas. Was a football star there. Ended up going on to play Division I football at the University of Kansas. Are
they the Jayhawks?
Yeah. I was a Jayhawker, so I was actually in the same class of like Andrew Wiggins and Joel Embiid. Like, it was actually really crazy having those guys actually come over to the apartment. We played 2K and all that. But I ended up playing football for about 2 years. Had that realization like, hey, I'm not going to the NFL, and that was never really my goal. And so after that, I ended up, diving into this tech thing, did a startup week, ended up trying to create a digital bank, dropped out for a year, and then, had all these conversations with a lot of these, big banks, et cetera, because I learned the whole back end of, what digital banking actually meant. But once I've returned back to KU, I ended up completing my studies in neuroscience and also data science.
And so back into the sports, what got you into football?
Yeah, what got me into football? I'll never forget it, man. So, I wasn't the best, behaved kid kind of growing up. So I'm actually the oldest of 6 kids. And so, it was just my mom raising us. And, she just wanted to, find an activity to get me in to kind of keep me out the streets. And at that time, it definitely turns out to be a privilege in hindsight, because my mom could only afford to put me into it. And so from a young age, and I'll never forget the conversation that I had with my little league football coach. He just instilled this utmost confidence and belief in me that, like, hey, if you really want to do this thing, you can use this as a vehicle. So I always thought as football as a vehicle to, like, whatever I wanted to do in life rather than like the end all be all.
When did you start taking it serious?
Yeah, so I started taking it serious. I'd probably say probably around like 5th grade. So it was around 5th grade, like at least in the city of Wichita, when the football coaches were no longer on like the actual playing field with you. Yeah. So like from 2nd to 4th grade or whatever, the coaches would be out there, guiding you, et cetera, making you good. But I'll never forget there was a practice when Coach Randall, he had asked a question like, how many of y'all believe that y'all want to play Division I football? And, my football team, there's probably about 40 of us or whatever, and it was all black football team, et cetera. But I was the only one that raised my hand. Yeah. And it wasn't like I was the only one that watched college football and things of that nature, but it was just this utmost belief of like, like I'm watching Adrian Peterson and, things of that nature. I'm like, I think I can compete with those guys. And so ended up just taking it serious from there. And then I think, what actually turned that into something where it was like, oh, I can actually do this was I just started getting involved in different like camps outside of Wichita, because Wichita, yes, Barry Sanders has come from Wichita and a few other like, big football players and things of that nature. But you actually have to travel out of the city to, get recognized. And it was when I started to go to Oklahoma and I started to go to Texas and compete with those kids. And I played cornerback. And I was starting to get, some recognition just when I was in Little League. It was like, oh, shoot, I might be able to do this thing.
And so what was growing up for you like?
Yeah, what was growing up for me like, man? Like I said, I wasn't the most well-behaved kid, and so the first time I actually ended up like going to juvie, probably was either in, like the third or fourth grade.
Yeah.
And it was just it was honestly just because I was bored in class.
Yeah.
And I would always get myself in like, to a lot of trouble, especially outside of school with my cousins. And I think, just kind of looking back on it, it was a blessing that at the time, my grandfather, he was a police captain.
Yeah.
And so a lot of I saw a lot of my friends, who would get in trouble with me. They didn't have my grandfather who could get them out of trouble.
Yeah.
So they went down different paths.
Yep.
And so that's always something that like I'm super like super grateful for. But even going into like middle school and things of that nature, I got expelled in the 6th grade.
Yeah.
And didn't get to complete like the second half of the second semester of 6th grade. And what was crazy about that was I'll never forget that scenario. I actually ended up getting expelled over because they said that I was going to blow up the school. That's what they had said. Kicked me out, and I'll never forget it. Like I ended up running to this teacher's classroom, and she was the only black teacher at the school at the time. And I went in there, and she hid me. And all these principals heard all these cops coming, and she was like, "Hey, you need to leave because like they're coming for you." And I'll never forget, like I was running through this neighborhood, had all these cops chase me. Police helicopter was, flying over. I actually didn't want to call my mom because I was like, my mom's going to end up just calling my grandpa, who's just, works for the police.
Yeah.
And I was like, let me call my dad because I was like, my dad is actually going to understand me. My dad ended up meeting me at a gas station, and I ended up running, like to the gas station or whatever. But I ended up, I could have failed. But the thing about it was I ended up passing all the state test scores and all that. But the crazy thing about that story was, flash forward to now I'm in college, and, the PE teacher who actually, was the one that said I was going to blow up the school. I actually ended up running into him one day on campus, and he ended up apologizing and was like, yeah, like I did that intentionally to like derail you, but to see that you prevailed and you're still here, never forget his name. His name was Mr. Shepis. He was like,
Jesus.
That's a testament to like, your resiliency and like persistence. And so, a lot of growing up was like a lot of those like just, little moments of almost, I could have went into a whole different path, but there were people along my life that helped push me into different directions. And like another one I want to give a lot of credit to is his name was Mr. Cotton. So, going into, freshman year of football, things of that nature, Mr. Cotton, he was the vice principal at the time at my high school, Northwest High School. And he used to be he used to coach defensive backs over at the University of Texas, and then he had moved to Kansas and coach high school football, things of that nature. And he was like, "Hey, I see a lot in you." And he was like, "I know your family doesn't have the resources and things of that nature, but like I'll take you in, whatever." And so literally when I tell you, this dude gave me all the resources all the way to like he paid for all my travel to go state to state. Like we were going literally Illinois. I came here to compete. I went to Florida to compete and all that, like just to get on college radars and things of that nature. And he took care of all that. And like, like things could have went a lot differently. And I'm just thinking like some of those friends that I had just kind of growing up, we did the same things. The only difference is I had different angels at different points in my life that, were there at the right place at the right time that just helped continue to propel me forward.
So as you begin to work towards graduation, when did you start getting like scouted? And
so I actually started getting scouted like going into my freshman year of high school football. And so locally I was already being scouted by like KU and Kansas State and things of that nature. But it wasn't until I started going to like the Nike football camps and things of that nature. I also went to the U.S. Army All-American Combine. I was actually potentially going to be like nominated. And the crazy thing about that was, I was all city, all state, all that, going into like my junior year and things of that nature. And I had all these schools looking at me, but I didn't play senior year high school football. Like I actually broke my leg. And the crazy thing about that was all those schools who were looking at me at that time literally stopped looking at me. And the day after, I broke my leg, I was actually supposed to be going to Stanford for their football camp. I was then going to be going to USC and then Oregon. I was doing a whole West Coast kind of thing. And I ended up not going, never heard back from those coaches after I told them, I wasn't going to be able to attend, things of that nature. And KU was the only one that stayed in contact. And so that's why it was like, at the end of the day, it was like, oh, I'm going to go be a Jayhawk, because it felt like it was the only opportunity left, given the circumstances at the time.
What was some of your like favorite football memories from high school? Like,
yeah, some of my favorite football memories. I will never forget. So my football team, we were always good. We were always like top 3 in the state. And the thing about Kansas football is the top teams usually are nationally ranked as well. Like there's Bishop Carroll that's in Wichita, Derby as well, which is a suburb of like Wichita. Like those are the teams we were going against and competing with. Like they've had multiple people on their teams that have gone on to play in like the NFL. Like Blake Bell, he plays for the Kansas City Chiefs and things of that nature. And so my top memories were always going against them. Like that's when you attracted the most biggest crowds, and honestly, they were the most crucial moments. And I'll never forget when we were playing Derby football, man. And it's a top memory just because it was very competitive. But this was to go to the state championship football game, and his name was DeAndre Goolsby, man. He was one of the top prospects in the country. He actually ended up going on to Florida, and it was just a big matchup between me and him. And I'm not that big of a guy. I'm a technician, and I had speed. And the fact that, I was able to show up in that game and really, hold my own, that was a big moment. We ended up losing that game because he ended up making a one-handed catch at the end of the game over our safety. But that moment really, really, really sticks with me. And I think another moment that really sticks with me too is, like I said, so senior year, I didn't play the whole season. I played one game just because I was like, hey, I really want my team. We started that year number 1 in state. We were like, my team was stacked. We were supposed to win state. But a lot of us ended up getting hurt, and we actually needed to win one game to go to like the playoffs. And so I ended up playing that game or whatever, and that was the only game that I played. But I ended up getting like a pick 6 that ended up turning, the tide for us to win the game, and then be in the state playoffs. And so those were some of my moments. And then on top of that, I think just kind of going to those camps where, I ended up competing with a lot of the guys like, that ended up going to the NFL, such as like I competed against Ray Lewis's son. I competed against
Ray Lewis's son is in the NFL?
Nah, so he ended up not going to the NFL. He ended up playing at the University of Miami as well. He was a running back.
Okay.
He wasn't bad. And then like Corey Robinson, who was David Robinson's the basketball player's son.
Yeah.
He was a star receiver at Notre Dame. And then the Fuller brothers who played cornerback over at Virginia Tech. I also went against Stephon Diggs and things of that nature. He was the truth.
Who's the best person you ever played against?
The best player I've ever played against. Woo. If I'm going to be honest with you, so I would almost have to take it back to college, and I'll never forget, man. I would have to say Tyreek Hill. So Tyreek Hill was at Oklahoma State, man, and the KU was playing Oklahoma State. We were up. There was probably maybe a minute left in the game, and this was at the time where we had Coach Charlie Weiss, as a coach. And I'll never forget it, man. I'm over here like, hey, don't kick this man the ball. Like, because you can just tell certain people's like instincts where you're like, nah, we ain't kicked this man the ball. We ain't put the ball in this dude's hand all game. Don't do it. And we got arrogant and we kicked it to him. And when I tell you that man is fast, like it's one thing to watch it on TV because he really is that fast, but like to experience it, I remember being on a kickoff team and just seeing the gap open, and I swear he just ran, and it was like, woo, you're not catching him. But he was a big time playmaker. He was, I was very impressed. Like he just knew like if the ball got in his hands, he was gonna make a difference.
Do you think speed is just like you're just naturally born with a speed like that?
Man, I think that kind of speed, yes. I do think obviously you can train and like improve techniques to, make your running a little bit more efficient or whatever. But like that speed, that was God.
Yeah.
That was yeah, he was born.
What was your best 40?
Yeah, my best 40, man, I ended up I believe the fastest 40 I ever ran was 4.5.
4.5?
Yeah, and that was electric.
Isn't it crazy to see sometimes some of these linemen do like low like just get into 4s?
Yeah,
Any bigger dude just getting in the fours.
Well, they built different now. Like, and it's actually really interesting, especially like living in Georgia. A lot of my friends out there, they went to school with, a lot of dudes that either went to like Bama or, Georgia. Them dudes is 300 pounds running themselves. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's a different world out there. And that was part of it. It was like, me accepting that reality. I'm not looking to go to the NFL.
Yeah. Dude,
Yeah.
that's insane. It's a lot. What about just some of your favorite memories just growing up in general?
Yes.
All the way up till graduating.
Yeah, some of my favorite memories just kind of growing up in general. I would just say, man, one of my favorite memories was just like, I'll never forget when I went on a cruise with my grandfather.
Yeah.
And the reason why that was one of my favorite memories was a lot of my siblings, they're just now starting to, travel outside of the state of Kansas and be able to see the world.
Yeah.
But my grandpa took me to see the world.
Yeah.
And because he took me to see the world, I always had a different perspective and knew that, like, outside of Wichita, Kansas, like, there was more to this. Like, outside of what I was seeing in my environment, there was more to aspire, to be, but also, like, to create in the world. And I think that drove a lot of my passion around, like, one, when it comes to, like, entrepreneurship and things of that nature, but just, like, personal growth. And then I think some of my other memories as well was just in college, being around a different group of people, a different group of friends. And the crazy thing about it was my mom did not know where I was going to school. Like, she didn't even think I was going to school. It wasn't until the morning I had to, move up to KU to start, like, summer ball and things of that nature. I literally woke her up at like 6 a.m. and was like, hey, I'm moving to KU. She was like, what? I was like, yeah, you got to take me. I'm already packed up. But KU was so pivotal just because when we go on those like fall break trips or spring break trips, things of that nature, some of me and my friends, we would go to like Colorado and things of that nature. And they would get me into like rock climbing and things of that. You know what I mean? And a lot of my friends from back home, they weren't doing that.
Yeah.
And it was this idea of just like taking risk and not being afraid of it. You know what I mean? And just kind of like trusting yourself, because when you're rock climbing, like it ain't one of those things. Like, and I'm not talking about like in a gym. I'm talking about like real rock climbing. You know what I mean? And it's very strenuous, and it takes a different level of mental toughness. And so that was something that like I've always appreciated. Like experiences that help me like rethink like who Brylan can become.
And to kind of add to that, what about like on a more, I don't know, expanded version of like what you were fond of? Do you think a lot of it kind of just went back into spending time with family and friends, or was it just kind of you, like, was there other things you like to do more of like on an individual basis? Yeah,
honestly, just kind of growing up, my big thing was like just playing video games.
Yeah.
But the thing about it too was,
like, what games?
I was always into the sports games, man. And part of the reason why was like I'm really good at Madden. I'm like a self-proclaimed like nobody can beat me in Madden.
Yeah, what's your team?
Bro, I'm a Patriots fan.
Yeah.
Like
I'll watch Man in the Arena?
Yeah.
I'm just finishing it up. I got like half hour left.
Got you. So yeah, like the first time I ever watched football was actually when Drew Bledsoe got hurt and Tom Brady came in and never came out.
Wow.
And so that was just a pivotal moment for me. But kind of growing up, I literally was always attached to like either college football or Madden. And I would always use those games to like mentally like prepare for like real life.
Remember the NCAA?
Correct.
Games? Weren't they crazy, bro?
Correct.
They've been gone for how long now?
They've been gone. I actually had the last one, 2013.
2013?
2013.
Damn, so almost 10 years.
Yeah.
That was probably one of the best games. I love playing with the mascots.
Yeah. Now, what was it? The one where you got to create your player, go through the high school experience?
Yeah, I love that.
That's
I love
what
that
I love
too.
doing, man.
Did you ever watch Leonard Fournette in high school, bro?
I did.
Nuts.
Yeah,
nuts.
He was actually one of my favorite players just because of like his mentality. Just like, yeah, like I'll never forget first day of practice at KU. We had this running back. This dude was like 6'2", 230 something, and I knew they had threw me out there to see like, okay, I'm not that big of a guy. Like, can he really hold his own? And I'll never forget this big dude. He tried to like juke me.
Yeah.
When with my mentality, I'm like, if I see somebody my stature, I'm running through you at that size.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so that's why I appreciate like Leonard Fournette. But also, thinking of number 7 and also LSU, my favorite player of all time, just from like a football standpoint, is Tyrann Mathieu. What he did at LSU, immaculate. And I'm like really surprised he didn't end up going on to like win the Heisman.
Yeah.
Because he made such a big difference.
So that's your favorite player of all time?
Favorite player of all time. Like go watch his freshman year tape.
Where's he play right now?
So he's with the Saints now.
And what position does he play?
They got him playing a hybrid position, but like safety.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
he was with the Chiefs.
Is he like a lockdown player still?
He's a lockdown player, but he's a playmaker and he's a defender. And the thing about it was, when he was playing cornerback for LSU, he actually was he led the country in forced fumbles.
Wow.
As a corner, and he led the country in defensive touchdowns. Like this dude's knack for the ball wasn't like, I'm just going to take the ball from you. He was like, I'm getting it, I'm scoring. Like one of his most pivotal moments was when LSU, they ended up going on to win the championship, but they were playing Georgia in the SEC championship. And once again, similar to what happened to, us and Tyreek Hill, they kicked it to Tyrann Mathieu, and he made a play, ended up running it back, punt return, and that ended up changing the game. But I always appreciated, like, one, he's not that big of a guy. We're pretty much almost the same size. He has a little bit more weight, but it was just that knack of, like, I'm a baller.
Yeah.
And he walked around with that swagger.
So, and then where did he play high school ball?
I believe he went to St. Augustine in New Orleans.
Okay, so he's Louisiana.
Yeah, he's a Louisiana cat.
Wow. And then I guess even veering off there a little bit, who were you closest to growing up?
Yeah, I was closest to my cousins, man. And so like my cousins Zach, Prentice, Marquise, like we all literally. So I spent most of like during the week with my mom and my siblings, but then on the weekend I would go to my stepmom's house. And like my father was in prison like most of my life, but I still would go over there and spend a lot of time with her. Her name is Pat. But we would literally all just sleep on the floor together, and we were all like so dedicated to like using football as that vehicle. And so like it was just easy for us to just get up, go across the street to the football field. We would do our own little drills and things of that nature. And then in terms of like the illegal activities and things that we did, of that nature, it was really just with the thought process of like we were training. Yeah. So like when we would go like TP houses or like egging, or say for example, there were sometimes we did like steal stuff. It was always with like, this is our speed training.
Yeah.
And we never got caught. Hopefully we don't get caught now.
Yeah. That's hilarious. Yeah. That's hilarious. I can relate to that a little bit. So I guess as you went into college.
Yep.
Well, how was it hard to get into college with having like a little bit of a record and everything?
Yeah, so I didn't have a record. That was the thing. I never
documented.
Yeah. I never got caught. And then on top of that, like I said, when I did get in trouble and go to juvie and things of that nature, I had my grandfather, who's the captain of the police force.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then it made sense to go to KU.
Yeah.
Then how was the whole college experience?
Yeah, so I actually ended up so the other thing about me as well was I was part of the gifted program in Wichita. And so I scored a 32 on my ACT. I could have literally went to, like, outside of just going to KU for football, I could have went to any other school for, like, just school. And so when I got to KU's football program wasn't, like, the best, although, like, I'm very grateful for, like, some of the players that I played with. Just the mentality wasn't what I was used to. I came from a winning football program. Now I was in, a losing football program, and how you operate and do things within that, it was just abnormal to me. And so there were a lot of times, especially early on, where I wanted to transfer. And, once again, thinking like I don't want to essentially, go to the NFL. Like what other options are out there? And so I did consider like transferring like multiple times. But I think just through the relationships that, I was able to build with some friends there, but also a pivotal mentor relationship that I ended up building, it just changed my perspective, and it was like, see this through because it will be a valuable experience.
So when did you take a year off of college?
Yeah, so I took a year off of college after my sophomore year.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then for that year, what did you do?
Yeah, I was building a digital bank.
So what was the idea behind that?
Yeah, so I, just kind of being a college student and not having much money and things of that nature, I was a nerd. And so I was reading up on like how the banking system works, like how
So did you do a lot of reading growing up? Like, were you nerdy always growing up?
Yeah. I've always been kind of that way, but
Reading or like
reading, just research, and just overall being curious. But it wasn't something I really started to lean into until like Mr. Cotton. He pulled me to the side and was like, "Hey, it's okay to be cool and be smart."
yeah,
Because before I was just getting in trouble. Mr. Cotton was like, "Nah, it's cool. It's cool to be smart." And so that was my thing. It was like, bet I know what makes me different is I can ball,
yeah,
like, and I'm smart. And so when I got to college, I had just read up on like I was just curious about like, hey, how is Chime like banking working and things of that nature. Like there was another one at the time called like Simple Banking. And what I realized was it was, a bunch of software guys building, the banking kind of, user interface. And then they were forming partnerships with these established banks and using that as like their banking backend.
yeah.
And I was like, why can't I do that? Because I was like, I know how to build software. I know how to design software. Like, I want to go do that. And so I ended up doing a startup competition. We ended up winning. And the whole idea was I thought there was an opportunity to take the interchange fees, which are basically just the money that banks make every time you swipe your debit card.
Yeah.
And
the credit card processing.
Correct. Like, and I wanted to, have a kickback to drive up savings. And so I was actually talking to like Google about investing, all that. They were like, you need to get the bank partner and things of that nature. So literally I'm cold calling and somehow getting interviews and all that with like VPs and all that, these big banks like Bank of America, et cetera. And it wasn't until like a year later after everybody was like, what do you know about banking? Like, I don't know much, but I know how to build software, man. And I think it's a good idea. And eventually I was like, you know what? Like, this ain't going nowhere. Let me go back to school.
And so you're building the bank.
Yep.
And to yourself, like, were you thinking like anything outside of like, hey, look, all I know is like I can do some software? Is that just coding? Is that what that means? I can build software?
Yeah. I mean, I like to think of it as a multitude of things. Like, so traditionally when people think of tech, they think of just like the engineering and like the coding, but it's multifaceted because you have to have someone that can design a user interface. Then you have to have somebody who can think through like the different steps. So like a user experience researcher. Then like, as you know, just having a business, it's not going to sell itself.
Yeah.
So you need people who can market and sell the product. And so for me, going back to what I was saying about that pivotal, mentor that I ended up meeting, her name is Beth McClendon. And so she's actually married to Brian McClendon, and so her husband was the creator of Keyhole. Keyhole ended up getting bought by Google for billions of dollars and ended up turning into Google Earth and Google Maps. And so she was actually the first product management hire for Netscape, which was the first internet browser, and she ended up going on to be like one of the first employees for YouTube and Android and all that stuff, and holds all these patents. And so they know the game. And so when I had met her, she just
how'd you meet her?
Bro, I was so after I quit football, I was serving at a hotel on campus, and I would wake up every morning 5 a.m. have to be there, and I did that consistently. And they lived on top of the hotel in their penthouse, and so she would come down every morning at 6 a.m., order the same thing, read her news, etc. And she just pulled me to the side and said, like, you are consistent. You are here every day. What do you want to do? And I told her, I was like, I want to build something. Like, this is what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to get to Silicon Valley, because I read about it or whatever. And she was like, bet we can make this happen. And what she told me was, she was like, do enough to pass your classes, but build. And I was like, okay. And so literally after I heard that, that's when I went on to try to build a digital bank. But even when I came back after that, it was still with that mindset of like, okay, if I do want to go work in the Valley, what's going to separate me is not like my school.
Yeah.
But what is going to separate me is the fact that like, hey, this kid has tried to build a bank. He's tried to build all these other things, things of that nature. And I actually have the experience rather than just like the theoretical knowledge. And so literally once I came back after, dropping out for that year, I would literally just go take the test. I always ace the test, like every single class, OChem, everything. And I would always set the curve, and I would never go to the class. I would never do none of the homework, and I passed with barely just to get a D every time. And I would spend all my time in the computer lab, and it was called Beauty. And at the end at the bottom of Budick, they had the small computer lab where they had like these Mac computers, etc. And that's where I taught myself, like data science. I also taught myself like design, the whole shebang, because in my head it was like, let me just explore right now before I exploit. And it was this idea of just like, be curious about all these different areas, because your time is going to come when, you have this good network, and then you can just exploit the one thing that you're really good at. And so, yeah.
Was it tough for you to make the decision to quit football, to transition?
Nah. It wasn't at all. Just because going back to one of the conversations I even had with Beth, was she challenged me to think, like, she was like, what role do you want to play? Like thinking of the game of sports and things like that. She was like, do you want to be a player or do you want to be a coach? And I'm like, I'm already a player. I think I want to be a coach. And she was like, why don't you want to be the owner? And I was like, that's intriguing. Like, to be the owner. And she was like, why don't you want to be the creator? Because she was like, the people who create the game create the rules that then the owner have to abide by, and then the coach. And I was like, okay. And so from that day on, it was super easy. It was like, being in this position, I'm not going to be a creator, I'm not going to be an owner.
Yeah.
And so that's what I've always been trying to strive for. And like the path that I've taken, literally since I've heard that first comment of, okay, let's build a digital bank, drop out, do that. That didn't work. That led to like internships in, Silicon Valley. Cool. There I was able to learn about like, tech companies that were, I would say, in like the middle phase. So I was at like Bleacher Report right before Bleacher Report got bought by Turner. And so that was very, very intriguing. But it also led to like other formative experiences, such as like when I did graduate, it opened doors to go work at a startup in LA. They were Series A, so I got to see like what does it look like to take an idea from nothing to something. And then after that, I was at the pay over time company Affirm with Max Levchkin right before Affirm IPO'd. And so I got to see the whole cycle of going from just an idea to going to like having a company on the stock market. And it's just in the span of 4 years.
So as you're going back for your to finish school, you're building at the same time, like when you were finishing school?
Yeah.
And were you still working on the digital bank, or what were you working on?
No. So I had gave up the digital bank idea, and at this time I was more just working on like more personal kind of projects.
Yeah.
It was more of just like, what problems do I have, and like how can I build solutions that like solve them?
What was your favorite one?
Yeah, my favorite one was just still in that realm of like finance. I knew I was horrible at budgeting. And I knew a lot of what, when it came to budgeting, the reason why I was bad about it was like my decision making. Specifically, I didn't understand opportunity cost. And so it was this idea of like, just getting a simple notification of, okay, this app understands that like Brylan just went to the grocery store, and Brylan bought food because it was able to understand the data from my receipts and things of that nature. So now whenever I was in the neighborhood of like, hey, I'm by a Chinese restaurant, I would get a ping of like, hey, you have food at home. Are you sure you want to do this, because it's going to cost you this? And that little, ping of like, oh shoot, I actually did just go buy some groceries. I don't need to spend this $20. Actually ended up helping me save more money over time. And so that was one of my favorite projects.
That's dope. So now, as you wrap up the 2 years, you said neuroscience?
Yeah. I'm studying neuroscience. Yeah.
So you have a bachelor's degree in neuroscience?
Neuroscience and data science.
And data science.
Yeah.
So what was that like?
It was intriguing, man. And I think what I really enjoyed about it is now just kind of being in the realm of business. It just provides me different mental models on how to look at different problems and just kind of look at the space. And I think especially just kind of building software, it helps me just keep in mind that like I'm building for people and understanding people like psychologically and things of that nature. Like originally kind of going into college, my goal was to be, a neurosurgeon, because my grandmother, she passed away from Alzheimer's.
Wow.
But
so my pap.
Yeah, like over time, that just the goal changed just because I saw technology could be, be used for bigger impact. But yeah, and then I think in terms of like just data science, what I really love about that is it's really like being a music producer. It almost reminds me of like how you might create a beat.
Yeah.
Where you're piecing together all these different, instruments and notes and things of that nature. Building a machine learning algorithm is the same thing, where you're just taking like these different variables and you're piecing it together until it predicts the right answer that you want it to predict. And so I like to think in analogies, just because I think, when learning these quote unquote complex topics, smart people like to make them more complicated than they are.
Yeah.
When, if you break them down, they actually make a lot of sense.
Yeah, absolutely. We do that a lot. So you graduated. How old were you when you graduated college? 22?
Yeah.
So what does life look like 22 to 27?
Yeah, what's like, so yeah, boy, life was interesting. So one of the things I didn't hit on was, so just kind of that senior year, man, life had hit me. So I remember that February, just kind of going into that, wrapping up graduation and things of that nature, I actually ended up losing my job. And so the hotel had actually fired me at that time. And I was like, cool, I got enough money. I knew I had enough money to pay rent all the way up to April.
Yeah.
And I graduated in May, and I was like, okay, do I want to go get another job or whatever? Thinking of trade-offs. And it was like, no, don't spend your time going to get like, one of these, jobs. Spend it on like actually trying to get into like, tech in Silicon Valley and things of that nature. And so I ended up doing that. I actually, miscalculated and was short. So I was actually homeless the last 2 months. So April and May, I was actually homeless. But the thing about it was, it taught me how to face reality. And what I meant by that was I had to be very honest with myself. I knew I had this car. I knew I attended the University of Kansas where, I had access, 24/7 access to the library. They had nap pods and things of that nature. I could go take a shower over at, the gym or whatever. And so it was just hustling literally for 2 months out of my car. I had my clothes. I would go take the test when I need to, show up. Humbly, I humbly did that. And so I ended up stumbling across an opportunity to work in product in LA for LA startup. And I was very excited about that. And, literally the day before graduation, I was actually in a really bad car accident where the car flipped, rolled down the hill, all of that. And it was really crazy just because I remember when I opened my eyes as the car, was finished turning, I just remember thinking like, dang, when I open my eyes, I hope I don't see something that I don't want to see, because I was with my roommates and things of that nature. And as soon as I opened my eyes, my phone was there right in front of my face, and notification came through. It was my mom, and she said, I just got here. And so in my mind, it was like, there's no way I'm not getting out of this car.
Yeah.
Like, she just got here. She's seeing me walk that stage. And so, like, I ended up kicking out the windows of that car, ended up, helping my roommates get out. Luckily, with the grace of God, and I mean, I got some angels watching over me. There was not a scratch or anything on me. A few other people that had, like, broken bones and things of that nature. But, like, I was good. And I ended up walking the stage the next day. And then a few days after that, I ended up moving to L.A. And that was just a very transformative experience just because, like I said, the company that I was working for was in the early idea stages. They were still trying to, find quote unquote what we like to say product market fit.
Yep.
And so it was dope just kind of, being this young kid. I worked with the C-level. That's it. So I got to see how the CEO of this tech startup was thinking. I got to see how the CTO was thinking. I got to see how they thought about hiring people and things of that nature. And then furthermore, like, just from some of the people that I was running around with, I also had the opportunity to do things on the side. So me and one of my good friends at the time, we were actually starting a digital sports media marketing firm. And so we were working with folks like Baron Davis, Steph Curry, things of that nature, where we were literally helping them with like their media deals, et cetera. And it was just like very eye-opening because, once again, I'm actually doing this. Like, yeah. And so that was just pretty cool experience. And so that ended up taking me to Atlanta, just because the company asked me to move to Atlanta to help, open up the Atlanta office and get the team up and running. So I ended up going there. I ended up staying for almost a year. And then after that, I had an opportunity out in San Francisco with the pay over time company, a firm. So I ended up moving out there. I was doing some sales engineering kind of work out there. And it was just a very eye-opening opportunity, just because to build the kind of business that they've built, it takes a very specialized kind of knowledge, and not everybody has that information to, one, like build such a complex like credit product, but then two, has the network to literally just walk into, you know, a bank and say like, hey, I need $1 billion credit line, you know, because I'm starting this company. And it was just very intriguing on how they went about doing business. And I'll never forget just some of the conversations that I had with different people on our team, but also specifically like the CEO, Max Levchkin. And the thing about Max is he was the co-founder of PayPal. And so I was just picking his brain, asking him questions on how he thought about managing, how he thought about like, you know, ideas and like iterating over time and things of that. It was just very eye-opening because you could tell he had the cheat codes. And so he was just super duper humble about that experience. So fast forward, the pandemic comes around. So now we're working at home.
And how old are you now?
So yeah, at that time I was actually 25.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm 25 at that time. And so now where the pandemic is happening, I'm actually living in the Bay Area, seeing everything kind of go down. Affirm was actually, it was very interesting because I was helping, I was leading strategic fashion partnerships. So I was working with like your Gucci's, your Dior's, all your big luxury brands on like, you know, helping them understand like their e-commerce stack and like how Affirm could fit into that and things of that nature. And fashion was just getting hit because ain't nobody buying no clothes in lockdown. And so it was just very a great learning experience to see how a company navigates when the markets are down. And then on top of that, I'm like, man, I might potentially lose my job because layoffs are a real thing when markets are down and companies are losing their valuation. I'm like, I got to do something. So the entrepreneur in me was just already starting to think of like different ideas. And at that time, me and my roommate, we ended up stumbling. We were on the app Clubhouse at the time.
Yep.
And there was an issue that ended up happening on that app where a group of black women or whatever, somebody had said some racist things, but they had brought it up to the CEO or whatever. And during the town hall, he just basically told them, we built this app so you can vote with your feet, meaning like if you got a problem, you can leave. And literally that day, I built a website in like 20 minutes. My roommate ended up getting on like Clubhouse stage saying like, hey, we're building the Cookout. And literally we had like 300 people sign up that night. And then over the course of the next few weeks, like literally thousands up to hundreds of thousands of people were like signing up for like this Cookout. And it was like, we just put a website up, you know what I mean? We didn't know what it was going to become, but people started telling this story of what the Cookout could become and things of that nature, to where like we had Diddy talking about it. We had Master P, we had Charlamagne the God, like everybody across culture was just talking about it. And so fast forward to now, January 2021, Affirm is actually getting ready to IPO. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna cash out, I'm gonna leave. And I'll never forget, I called my manager at the time to tell her that I was getting ready to leave because we need to go build this thing. There was like demand for it. And as soon as I got on the phone, she said, Brylan, whatever you're about to tell me, God wanted me to tell you, like, go do it. And I was like, well, I'm telling you that I'm quitting today. And she was like, cool. And then over the course of the next few weeks, when we went on to raise venture capital, Twitter was an investor, is an investor in my company, Mac Ventures as well.
And then what's the name of?
Yeah. So we ended up having to change the company from the Cookout at the time because of trademark stuff. But the company today is 7th Ave. And so we're a creator platform that essentially does three things. We help creators centralize their brand. We help them, you know, deepen their relationships with their followers through actually building a community that they own. And then the third thing as well is we help creators actually sell things. Just because the problems that we're looking to really solve.
So are you like a marketing company?
Nah. So I wouldn't say that we're a marketing company. I would say we're more of like a creator toolkit. So like how Shopify provides all these tools for you to quickly, you know, set up your e-commerce business. We believe, you know, the future is actually going to be very decentralized and individual like based, where you're starting to see a lot of these big kind of institutions be picked apart. And, you know, think about it. What you have here is a podcast.
Yeah.
Right? Like there used to be big radio stations and things of that nature.
Yeah.
This is the future. And, you know, creators that one of the things that we've learned is creators need tools. So we're in the business of building those tools for creators to be able to operationalize themselves as businesses.
And the tools, they specifically correspond with just any area or avenue of an individual's company?
Yeah. So like, it doesn't matter what type of creator you are. Like, It can you can create a podcast. You can be somebody that just creates TikToks, all the way to like you may just be somebody who likes to travel and you have these itineraries.
And then how would they buy service from your company?
Yeah, so it's really simple. So literally you just go to our website, pull up on 7th.com. The first thing is you just by creating an account, you get a link in bio. And so one of the things that we realized is, a lot of people have an Instagram, TikTok, or all these different things. They need to be able to centralize their digital presence. And so we help you do that. The third thing, the second thing is, these platforms like Instagram and things, they allow you to talk at your followers but not actually build relationships. And so we actually built our own community platform where a lot of our users currently right now say it's better than Discord, and we truly believe that it is. And then the third thing is,
what's better than Discord?
Our community platform.
And Discord is like a group me?
Yeah, so Discord is a voice is a group chat app.
Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty similar to like GroupMe. I would say like Telegram.
So you guys have an app that's like a community?
Yeah. You could go download an app store and everything.
All right, let's look at it in the app store.
Yeah, pull it up, man. 7th Ave.
I'm over here lost, and somehow I'm having like a narcolepsy episode as well. I'm like sitting here like I think I'm about to die. I don't know if the lights are about to give me a fucking seizure or something, dude, but I'm like sitting here like what? I don't know if I'm falling asleep or I'm high or like what the hell is happening.
Nah, the lights are kind of a little bright.
And it's like coming into the side, and I got that light there.
Yeah.
Oh, we forgot to put the lights on in the back.
Oh, yeah. I can turn this way a little bit.
Just make sure we don't blind him. Does it still look good? That might be worse. I don't know. Maybe my eyes have adjusted. That's a little better.
Yeah.
Does that feel a little better?
Yeah, I'm good.
Shit, dude, this shit got my brain fried. It took 18 minutes for me to pull up 7th Ave just in the App Store.
Yeah, man.
All right, 7th Avenue right there.
7th Ave right there, man. So, like, literally, you just download that. You get in the app. We like to say it's a...
So you guys create, like, digital shit for a company. Like, if I called up and I'm essentially... I don't even know if I could call me a creator. This is a franchise, but essentially I'm creating my own insurance business.
Correct.
With it being a franchise. But what would I be like? Hey, look, here's everything I do for my business. I sell, I recruit, and I train and develop. There's like 4 pillars, if not 3. I like to break it down to 3. I think it's leadership, selling, and recruiting in our business.
Mm-hmm.
What different things should I minimize, or what different things should I create to, like how would you know the solution to my business?
Yeah. So when it comes to like, I wouldn't say our product is probably geared towards unless you were actually thinking of this in terms of like a content creator kind of business.
Yep.
But kind of what we would do is, depending on like the level of service, we can help you, use 7th Ave to actually maximize, incremental, like what we like to say is incremental revenue for your business, and also incremental like brand awareness. And so that's why companies come and like, creators come and use us.
Because you're bringing, you said brand awareness?
Yeah. So,
and then what 2 things did you just say? You said brand awareness?
So incremental brand awareness, and then also incremental revenue.
Okay.
Yeah. So essentially just what that means is we're helping drive, additional revenue to your company. On top of that, like eyeballs and things of that nature.
Yep.
And so the way we do that is, like I said, we got those 3 pillars. It's the link in bio.
Now, do you guys have people that can create apps?
Oh yeah, I got a whole team.
Okay, jeez. Might have to connect you with.
Yeah, I got a whole team.
I'm filling out this 7th Ave also simultaneously.
Yeah.
Aiden, can we change my TikTok name to match my Instagram name? Remember we were talking about that? People were telling us we should do that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know if I have a Twitter username. I don't know who's fighting up there either.
Yeah.
Select your cribs. Cribs are safe spaces that feel like home for people with
similar so cribs are pretty similar. You think like similar like Facebook groups, any other kind of like, subreddits, things of that. It's a community of people.
Yeah, these are hard. Who comes up with these cribs?
It's creators. It's different. It's different creators. So say, for example, if you wanted to have one for your podcast, right? Like, you could literally just create a crib.
So Is there like private cribs? Like what if I wanted to?
Yeah. So
I use GroupMe to communicate with my company.
Yeah. So
would this be more effective?
Yeah. So you can have a private, literally. So we have right now. So we have public cribs. So that would mean anybody would be able to kind of join it or whatever. We have secret cribs where like nobody knows it really exists unless you send them the link. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then the other type of crib that is getting ready to come is going to be token gated, which just means, you know, we'll be able to have you connect like your crypto wallet, things of that nature. And if y'all have the same NFT, things of that, y'all be able to get into the crib. And so, yeah.
So, I guess I need to understand this a little more. This is dope though. So wait. Now, how long is Seventh Ave been around then?
Yeah, so we spent
years?
We spent all of 2021 building the product.
Okay.
And then we rolled out the product at the top of this year.
Okay, so you guys are 6 months in.
Yeah.
Wow, you guys have had a lot of progress.
Yeah.
But you've been working on it.
Yeah, it's been working
for
on
years.
Yeah, we've been working on it for last year was a lot of just work, like I said, working on the product. But we also just had some hiccups around.
Did you do fundraising last year as well? Or have you done?
Yeah, so we did fundraising last year, and then we actually are in the process of fundraising right now. We're wrapping up a $4 million round.
And then what will those investments go back into?
Yeah, so those investments are going to continue. One, just kind of with where the market is right now. A lot of investors are actually recommending that, you know, you have anywhere from 2 to 2.5 years worth of capital put up, just because valuations are going to go down, and just because basically the way the game works is, since the stock market is going to go down, that's impacting LPs. LPs are the ones who give money to venture capitalists. So since LPs have less money, venture capitalists are going to have less money.
What's an LP?
LP is a limited partner. So you can think of these as like your wealthy individuals, endowment funds, things of that.
They have the liquid funds.
Correct. So they're the ones who invest in venture capitalists.
Okay.
And so venture capitalists, since they have less money from the LPs, they're going to have less money to put into startups.
Okay.
And so what that's going to do is, it's one, going to drive down, you know, valuations, but it's also going to make it really hard for companies to raise money when, you know, during a bear market.
Yeah.
And so that's why we're currently fundraising again right now, to make sure we have enough capital, hopefully, you know, to survive that and continue to build out our product. But also, like, we are thinking, you know, with this mindset of like, okay, they like to say it's Raymond profitable. So in tech, they understand, like, most of the time when you're building these tech companies, you sacrifice profits early on for growth, just because.
Oh, absolutely.
Exactly. So right now, what we're doing is, that's where the whole e-commerce portion of this will come in, is helping creators actually be able to sell things. We'll be making our money off the e-commerce portion. So same way like Shopify, etc.
So, what's the 5-year vision?
Oh, so what's the 5-year vision? Yeah, man. So if I'm gonna keep it a stack with you, this is going to, same way today we have to rely on public utilities, such as electric, water, to, you know, for our basic needs. 7th Ave will be considered a utility for creators. Like, when we look at, you know, the just what is happening right now to drive the creator economy is around 200 million people. That's just creating content. And the way we like to break it down is, there's 4 levels to it. So the first level is hobbyists. So that's like 99% of people. They're just doing it for a hobby. Then there's a subset of that, you know, which are level 2. They're doing this full time, making a wage off of just creating content and things of that nature. And then level 3 and above is more of like your superstars. So like your Drewskis, you know, Rihanna's, things of that nature. What we're focused on is, there's a ton of people right now, just because they're either resigning or they're being laid off, things of that nature. 54% of Gen Z wants to become an influencer. There's a huge portion of content creators that want to go from just doing this as a hobby to actually being able to make a livable wage off of this. Right now, they don't have the tools. And so 5 years from now, 7th Ave will be an essential utility for creators to be able to do that and basically live on their terms. And so our whole thing is, use 7th Ave to get paid to be yourself.
So how much sales or revenue have you guys generated in your first
Yeah.
6
So
months, right?
yeah, so we actually so we haven't generated any revenue right now. We haven't rolled out our e-commerce product yet.
Okay.
So our e-commerce product is actually going to be rolled out here in August.
And then, so how many investors do you guys have then?
Yeah, so like I said, we have Twitter, we have Mac Ventures, we have Backstage Capital, Gang Jewels.
Now, how would somebody get a hold of like some of these bigger companies like Twitter to invest into a
Relationships.
Okay.
Yeah, you got it. A lot of it is just relationships, and so just go back to answer the first question. Yeah, we probably have over 100 so individuals that have invested in the company.
Wow.
But yeah, a lot of it just comes from relationships.
And so I guess back into the 5-year vision, what's more of like your personal 5-year vision?
My personal
like where you live in? Are you getting married? Like what's
yeah, man. And
cars, what's it, that little 5-10 year gap?
Yeah, so yeah, the 5-year vision, man. If I'm gonna keep it a stack with you, so I see myself, still being heavily involved in 7th Ave, and at this point, hopefully 7th Ave is a global company. Just because there's a huge opportunity there. With that being said, and understanding how the game of startups work, I do plan on with each subsequent round, selling a piece of my equity so I can de-risk, this investment of time. And so, within the next 5 years, I will be, pretty wealthy in terms of having millions of dollars and hopefully being on paper, worth billions, depending on the valuation and thinking of that. And then in terms of, I am married. I'll have a beautiful wife. 5 years from now? Yeah, so we'll probably be starting to think about kids around that time, just because, I got to hustle right now. That's just kind of where my mindset is. But I do want to be in a position where kind of what I have written down on paper is starting to think about like giving back. Like I want to really be able. One of the big visions that I have, and me and my cousins used to talk about this all the time, is going back to Wichita and just buying up a lot of property in the neighborhood that we grew up, and then being able to, use that to create different programs to, one, make it easier for people to live, but then two, by being involved in that program, being able to help them travel and see the world just as I did, because, it expanded my view. And so, like, I know I need money to be able to do that.
Yeah.
That's why I'm hustling so hard right now.
Do you have any hobbies or any things that you do to help have like a mental release?
Yeah, I would say running. So I run about 3 miles every day.
Yeah.
So I enjoy that. And then I would also say biking when I can bike. And then additionally, I just read a lot.
Yeah.
I'm an information.
What's your top 3 favorite books?
Yeah, so top 3 favorite books. I would say 0 to 1 by Peter Thiel.
Yeah.
I was actually rereading that one on the way up here.
Yes.
And then another book that I really enjoy is Psychology of Money. That's a really good book. And then
is that by like Dale Earnhardt or something?
Nah, I can't remember the lady's name who wrote, or the gentleman's name that wrote it. But it's a really good book. And then the other book that I would say that I've really enjoyed is I think it's called like Notes, Lecture Notes from Richard Feynman. But Richard Feynman was like, this physicist or whatever. And he just had this weird way of thinking and was just a really cool, like, smart guy. And so.
Who's your favorite entrepreneur or business owner or CEO?
Yeah, my favorite entrepreneur, business owner. I'm not gonna lie to you. I mean, it's just who I've experienced, but I'm gonna have to say Max Levchin, man. And the reason why is dude is super strategic.
Who is this again?
Yeah, so Max Levchin. This is the thing. So when people think of PayPal, they usually only think of Elon Musk.
Yeah.
But Max Levchin was the founder of PayPal. It was him and Peter Thiel who actually created PayPal together.
Wow.
And like PayPal was even stemmed from an earlier idea that Max had over in college when he went to U of I.
Yeah.
And so yeah, he's the reason why he's my favorite CEO is like just having worked with him, he has a lot of humility.
What company he works with now?
Yeah, so he's still with a firm. He's still building it out. Like he's been the CEO for the past 10 years.
Now, didn't you do some internships or?
Yeah. So I actually worked there.
Okay,
Yeah.
and you were there for a year, 2 years.
Yeah, I was there for a year and a half.
And did you like that? And that was in the Bay, but before you were in L.A.
Yeah.
And in L.A., what company were you with?
Yeah,
in
I
LA?
was with Blavity, and so I was working for she's actually a pretty big entrepreneur as well. Her name is Morgan DeBon.
Okay. And which out of those two did you like the most, or just
Max
different
Levchin.
experience? Okay.
Two different experiences. Like
Yes.
Morgan is a great entrepreneur as well. Totally different styles. I think the thing that I like about Max is like he's seen it and he's done it. And so even seeing like, you know, when the pandemic was happening, right, and like how everything in the market was happening with like Afterpay and Klarna. Afterpay and Klarna was spending a lot of money. And he was like, from a firm standpoint, we're not going to spend no money right now.
Yeah.
And I remember everybody in the company was like, oh, we're going to lose deals, et cetera. And, you know, he was like, but watch, the market's going to dry up and they're not going to have no money. And now that, and because they ain't got no money, they won't be able to win no deals. And the firm's going to be able to come in and swoop all this up.
Yeah.
And literally like 6 months later, that's exactly what ended up happening. A firm had capital. A firm was able to go get these big deals, et cetera, and take up market share. And so it was just like, damn, he's seen this before.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And he's once again, he's a very humane leader. Like like when you're making those decisions to like have to like, you're gonna have to lay off a good portion of your team. That's not a that's not an easy decision to make. And that's all, like, I remember during that time when we were in the Valley, that's all that was happening. Lyft, Twitter, et cetera, et cetera. But what he said was he gave the challenge. He was like, yeah, we can lay off people, but we can also go make more money. Which one do we want to go do? And it just inspired the team to go want to make more money so everybody could keep their job. And he was just a very humane leader in terms of how he led.
And what all does their company do?
A firm?
Yeah.
Yeah, so a firm does pay over time. So basically, they help split your payments into 3, 6, 12 months.
Like a credit.
Yeah. So they're actually building the future of digital banking. It's genius, because to build the future of digital banking, like all banks are like credit pipelines. That's how they make most of their money. So they started with the credit pipeline. Now they just layered on top of that the savings account. So you can actually have a savings account with a firm. If you get their app, you actually can shop right there. But they're building this super app like just for your money. So if you want to shop, cool, you can use it right there. If you want to save, cool. If you want to invest in crypto, cool. If you want to, be able to pay split your payments, cool. Like, it's actually a really genius idea.
So, now, do you still want to be living? I know you plan on moving to Chicago. Do you foresee yourself being here for 5 years?
Yeah. I could see myself being here.
Winters too.
Yeah. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, you don't mind the winter.
I enjoy it, man. I'm from Kansas.
So where do you run in the winter?
Literally. So
Outside.
Yeah.
Oh God.
Yeah. We. But also, me and my girl, we've talked about, because she's originally from the Bay Area as well as, we want to. It's this whole dream of having 5 homes across the world.
Yeah.
Hopefully we're in a position to be able to do that.
Yeah. So places all over.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So what about food? Big foodie at all?
Oh man, I'm a huge foodie, man.
Any favorite restaurants or food dishes? What is it?
Valore.
Where's that?
It's
Miami?
literally it's in River North, man.
Oh,
I'm not
okay.
gonna lie to you. It's a little it gives you a little mafia vibes, man. You walk in there, you got all the Italian people, man, in their suits.
I'm gonna look it up.
It's
real quick.
beautiful, bro. But
You ever eaten there, Aiden?
No.
Valore?
best Italian food in Chicago.
How do we spell it?
Valore.
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 Valore Italian Restaurant Grill.
Mm-hmm.
That one says Texas. See here. Valore, Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
Is it VOLARE?
It might be,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Yeah.
We literally just go in there and we just tell the waiter, bring us whatever you want, and they always do.
Does that look like it?
Let's see. Yeah.
I'm gonna have to check this place out.
Yeah.
What's your girl do again?
Yeah, so she actually works in data science over at Google.
Ah, okay. That's dope.
Yeah.
Put this here. Oh, places to eat food.
Yeah.
Now, do you have are you sweet tooth at all? Do you have a favorite dish or anything?
Nah, man. They actually had some what was it, like some black squid ink spaghetti.
That sounds fire.
It was fire. It was fire. It had a good taste of like just spice, and then
Yeah.
I don't know what they had added for, like, there was a little bit of sweetness, but it was really good.
Now, what about like any movies, TV shows, anything like a top 2, top 3 favorite all time?
Man, movies, TV shows. Man, so I love Power.
Yeah.
I love Power.
The show Power, right?
Yeah.
I have a kid that works for me that looks exactly like Tariq. I swear to God.
Yeah. I
gotta show you this kid.
I love that show. Another show that I would say
Actually, I'm gonna FaceTime him.
it just makes me laugh. Gracie and Frankie, man, on Netflix, man.
I don't know what that is.
Oh,
it any
bruh.
good?
It's fire. It's fire. And then
See if he answers.
I ain't gonna lie, I've been watching a lot of the different
What up, boy?
Hey, what up? I'm trying to show somebody what you look like.
He said you look like Tyreek. 100. What up, man?
Don't he look like Tariq?
I can see it.
What's going on, bro?
Not much, man. How you living?
Man, good, man. Just ripping and running, man. That's it.
Always, man.
He's
always.
blown it up in the insurance industry. We reached out probably a year ago. He was really big in Forex. Really, really big in Forex. And we just built a genuine relationship, and now we're working together in the insurance industry, and he's popping off, blowing up. I just wanted to show him what you look like.
Yeah, I like your bald fade up there.
Yeah, you like that? All right, big dog. All right, peace. So where were we? We were talking about desserts, movies.
Yeah.
You were saying Gracie and Frankie. Is that a show?
Yeah, it's
What
a
the hell's
show.
that about?
Bruh, you know
Have you
Miss.
seen it?
You know Miss Fizzle. I think her name was Miss Fizzle from Magic School Bus.
I remember Magic School Bus, but I don't know if
So
I
the
remember
lady,
Miss Fizzle.
the teacher lady.
Okay, is that the
Yeah. So
the
she's
nerdy
one
white
of
lady?
she's one of the main characters. So it's two older ladies.
Is it a cartoon?
Nah, it ain't cartoon.
Okay.
But it's two ladies. They used to be married or whatever. It turns out that their husbands have been having an affair together for 40 years.
So
And
the ladies are gay.
No, the husbands.
The husbands are gay.
Yeah, and
Okay.
and it turns out they have been gay for 40.
And they didn't know.
Yeah, and they
But
ended
weren't the ladies hooking up together too?
Nah. They just now they're starting to become friends.
They're becoming friends,
Yeah.
but their husbands love each other.
Yeah, and the husbands actually ended up divorcing the wives and getting
Get
together.
married. That's hilarious.
It's just very funny. But
Yeah.
it's also funny because it's like,
And they all stay like in communication?
yeah.
That's hilarious.
And it like literally it's the lady with the Magic School Bus voice.
Yeah.
And this is a grown up show. And it's like, bro, what?
Yeah, what's going on?
Yeah, it's hilarious.
That's hilarious.
I would say that, and then I'm not gonna lie, I've been watching these I guess you would call them like true crime TV shows and shit.
Does your
man.
girl make you watch those, or you want to watch them?
Nah, I watch them because I'm always curious about psychology.
Yeah.
So like the thing about it was like growing up in Wichita as well was there was actually a famous serial killer from Wichita. His name was Dennis Rader, but his name was BTK.
Okay.
Or whatever, and he basically was on the loose and did a lot of crazy stuff from like the 1970s all the way up until he got caught in like the late 2000s. And the reason why I'm also fascinated is because him and my dad shared a cell together.
Okay.
And so my dad would tell me about these stories and all this, but it was always this dude. He was big in the church. You would have never knew that this dude
Look
did
him
it.
up.
He worked at a university or whatever. Literally type in BTK, Wichita, Kansas.
Dennis Rader?
Dennis Rader.
Dennis Lynn Rader is an American serial killer known as BTK, the BTK Strangler, or the BTK Killer between 74 and 91. Rader killed 10 people in Wichita and Park City, Kansas, and sent taunting letters to police and newspapers describing the details of his crimes.
Yeah. He got caught because he wanted to get caught. But his thing was pretty similar to like John Wayne Gacy, where literally he had family, all that stuff. And then when they finally went to his house or whatever.
How do you have a wife the whole time?
He had a wife the whole time. And they had a whole shed in the back of the house that she never went into because he wouldn't let her. And that's where he would keep like stuff of his victim. Like it was crazy.
So what, he would take pieces of his victims?
Yeah.
Like any specific pieces?
It was it wasn't anything specific.
Just random, just as like a memory
to remember. Yeah.
Well, did he ever like confess or say a reason why, or like
outside of that, he did it, and he was
Did
it was just that urge. He just had that urge.
Did he get the death sentence?
Nah, they don't. When he was actually found guilty, Kansas had just ended the death penalty.
Wow.
Yeah. So he's just locked up with multiple life sentences.
Wow, that's nuts.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what's the hardest adversity you've had to overcome in your entire life as we wrap up?
The hardest adversity, man. I honestly, it's just gonna it's those last few months, like I was saying, college, man, where I was homeless.
Yeah.
And literally that was hard because I could have quit. I could have had a lot of ego and been like, people are going to look at me a certain way because I'm the guy, that can't even go back to his apartment no more because I can't pay rent.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And on top of that, when I first moved out to LA, I had $100 to my name. And actually, I had a few $100, but it took me a few $100 to fly to LA. And so by the time I got to LA, I only had like $100 or so bucks. And my mom ended up helping me get a Airbnb. Like I stayed in a hostel, literally in Koreatown, man, in the back with like 12 people. There were all these bunk beds or whatever. And it was a very humbling experience because all those people that were staying there, just kind of talking to them and hearing their stories, they either used to be like producers and things of that nature out there in LA. Some of them even had been doctors, but they just fell on like hard times. And, now this was just their life, living hostel to hostel. But I ended up staying in that hostel, for a month just because I didn't get my first paycheck, for a month or whatever. And it was just very intriguing because I had to walk to work every morning, 4 miles. I would walk 4 miles back. And during that time, like there were so many times where I just wanted to quit because I'm like, I didn't have much clothing. Literally, me and some of my coworkers, old coworkers, we joke about. They're like, Brylan, you used to wear them baggy ass black pants all the time, man. Like literally, I got me like 2 pair of black pants from Walmart, and I would just wear the same thing. We had the shirts, and it was just, it felt so humiliating, but it was one of those things where I learned a lot about ego. And if you're able to set aside ego and look outside of that and just see the reality, you're able to make a lot of progress fast.
Absolutely. Ego kills.
Correct.
Edging God out.
Correct.
I've heard you say some like religious or spiritual terms. Are you a believer? Did you go to church or?
Yeah. Nah. I don't go to church. I would say.
Yeah, I don't go to church, but
yeah,
I listen to church.
Yeah, that's how I am. It's like, so I'm pretty open minded. I believe that like just my perspective, that like if we say God created everything, that means like he literally created everything. So be open minded to like
God
everything.
Creating science.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so like literally I like whatever resonates with me, that's what I gravitate towards. Like a lot of my friends are also like, Muslim and things of that nature.
Yeah.
And so like the
I love learning about it all.
Exactly. Like the Quran and all that.
I love
it's
learning
fascinating.
about it. Yeah.
So yeah, man.
So idea. So venture capitalism and raising funds.
Yeah.
Not necessary to my overall knowledge for myself, but I was curious. I was putting together, and I just want to run this idea by you. I was putting together, like, still pitching it as if I'm seeking out venture capitalists and, like, investors and certain things like that, putting together, like, a pitch, and more so trying to structure it towards their investment being in direct correspondence with time and their network. Because for me to, like, exponentially grow my business would be to rapidly bring in a lot more people.
Yeah,
that makes sense. And I figure, like, what better way to do that than to essentially pitch somebody on getting their insurance license and then bringing in a significant amount of people, investing X amount of time weekly, and we train and teach those people how to sell insurance. And I show them a projection of how much money they could make over time with doing almost minimal work, but aside from investing into their network. So say, like, hypothetically you knew 1,000 people.
Mm-hmm.
Would it make sense, just follow along with me, would it make sense for you to get your insurance license, and if I told you on an average 10% make it in the insurance industry, so 1,000 of them, we get them interested, 100 of them make it, and the average person will sell 2 families a week. It's about $200,000 of insurance sales. Through the company contracts that our company offers, you could make anywhere from $20,000 to $40,000 a week. I just don't know how long it would take. On average, let's say that took 47 years, plus you would build residual income. So not only could you make an extra $500,000 to $1 million a year, but you would build passively an extra $2 or $3 grand a month for the existence of just your network and getting them to sell insurance. That's kind of my idea I was trying to put together, because I went to this event and I'm listening to all you guys talk about all this money you've raised, and I'm like, what could I do? Because I don't need the money, but I need people, I need more bodies.
So 2 things. Like the first thing that you said that I feel a lot of investors probably would gravitate towards is this idea of a network. So most of the top technologies are built around networks. IG is not valuable if there's not a network of people on it.
Yeah.
Twitter, Facebook, not valuable. Google is not valuable if there's not a network of websites.
Yeah.
And so network businesses are the most valuable internet businesses. So that's one of the big things. I think the other thing that you would want to figure out is how do you build something that eliminates you from having to do all the outreach and, like, you know, you make this essentially into like a self-serving model. Just because one of the ways that you would probably want to pitch this to investors is they like hearing about, like, how does this make, you know, things more efficient? How does it save people time? You know, and just thinking around like what you said, let's say a person has 1,000 friends, 10%, so 100 of them, you know, decide to go get their license. Can you shorten that process? Can you make it less expensive for them? Can you make it, you know, quicker for them to get on-ramped and, you know, start to, you know, develop these, you know, residual incomes and things of that nature? But more importantly, can you do all that using software? Because the whole thing is with them is you want to build a network business so you can capture more of the market. And then on top of that, you want to use technology because the marginal cost of writing code is 0. Literally, you write the code once, and I can put it anywhere on anyone's phone or on the internet. And so it's about cost. And so that's how they would think of it. And so that's how I would encourage it.
What about to just investors in general, and just putting an emphasis on the investor making the return on investment in correspondence with who they know?
Yeah. So, yeah. I'm going to be humble here. I only know about like
tech, because you're building in tech, so it's almost like a stupid question.
Yeah, how tech investors think, but that's how tech investors think. They're thinking with the idea of like, yeah, can this company generate 9 to 10 figures?
Yeah, dope, dude. Anything you want to shout out? Any companies outside of 7th Ave? Your company? Any people? Anything you want to talk about?
Yeah, man. So, some people that I would just kind of shout out. Just you know, for having an impact, you know, just on me. Huge shout out just to Landon. Landon was the one who connected us, man.
Yeah.
And like it was like I might actually end up giving a huge shout out to he's actually one of the advisors to our company. His name is Warren Jones, but he was the one who hosted the event where I ended up meeting Landon and, you know, things of that nature out in Miami. Yeah. And so I want to give a shout out to them. I would also give a huge shout out to I'm a part of this founder chat group, and it's literally a group of us, Rodney, Dre, Josh, David, Dala, Victor. We all met when, you know, we all just had got to LA with this dream out of college of like, hey, we're going to make it in tech.
All tech founders.
Yeah. And all of us have raised over millions of dollars.
Wow.
And so, yeah, I definitely want to give a shout out because it wouldn't have been possible without that. Like just having that network of people and being able to learn. And then on top of that, just my support system. So my girl is like really big. Like she supports me a lot, challenges me a lot. She was actually just challenged me earlier today, but you know, she's also in the weeds with me. Like if I, you know, go to a conference or something of that nature and she comes with me, she's selling just as good as me.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? And so I'm extremely grateful for that.
Who's the coolest person you've met and I'm just thinking of that.
The coolest person I have met. I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna have to say Baron Davis.
Baron Davis?
Yeah, Baron Davis is by far one of the coolest people out there.
Yeah, athlete.
Yeah.
Didn't he have the Baron 9s?
Yeah, so he played for the Golden State Warriors point guard. Yeah.
He was he kind of cold, wasn't he?
He was cold. But so me and Baron, we ended up meeting like he was one of the guys I ended up meeting early on in LA.
Wow.
But since, you know, leaving, you know, stopping playing basketball, he's been getting heavily involved in tech, and like he's actually a huge not only tech investor, but also crypto investor
Wow.
and things of that nature. But the dude is smart. I'll never forget the first day that I met him. We pulled up to his crib, and he was getting ready to, finish a 7-figure deal with Bloomberg. And, he went through the whole business strategy, as if it was just like, a whiteboard session and it was a pick and roll on the playboard. And it was just like, wow, this dude thinks differently. And so it just changed my whole perspective because, just kind of being an athlete and being around the other ones I had been around was like, most athletes don't think that way.
Yeah.
So the fact that like he actually educated himself and he was doing the work, it was impressive.
That's insane. That's nuts. Well, another episode in. Aiden, how long did we rock this one out? Did we get an hour in?
About an hour 20.
Good.
This one was good, man.
Solid. Awesome, bro. Well, you'll be hearing from us because this will drop in a couple weeks, couple weeks, month, 2 months at the most.
No, this was good.
Appreciate you, big dog.
Yeah, man. This was good, bro.
Damn.